Man and Weib. Bei der Besure, als Mottele is mehr nicht da, hat die Rebbetzin Edel a Fall getan auf dem Bett. When she heard the news that her Mottele had died, the Rebbetzin Edel fell onto the bed mit der gelb-grünlich verkrimmt Panem, with a face, a pale, yellow-green, literally, and with an agonized expression. Und Hals hat sich gehäuben wie gebunden auf, was will springen von Koschek. And her heart was beating like a bird that had been tied up and wants to spring out of a basket. Aber sie ist bald gekommen zu sich, but she soon came to herself. Und guckte auf einen Mann mit verstarrte Augen. And she looked at her husband with staring eyes. Na, nicht Gosche. Ich will bleiben leben. It's okay. I'll still be alive. In selben Frühmorgen ist beim Polotzker Dayen gewesen Moschke Zirolnik und dort abgespielt die Szene, was hat später erzählt Merlin. The same morning, Moschke Zirolnik came to the Polotzker Dayen, and there he played out the scene that he later told Merrill. Nach seiner Weggehen ist der Rebbetzin befallen als a Zar auf ihr Mann. After he left, the Rebbetzin attacked her husband with such pain, als das hat vertempt dem Wetek nach ihr verstorben Kind, that it dampened the pain for her having lost her child. A Gassenjung is mebaze ihr edlen Mann. After all, a youngster from the street had just insulted her noble husband. And says, I feel in the Tavera soll sich vor ihm annehmen. And there's nobody who can take his part. By the Rebbetzin is euch kein Suffix nicht gewesen. The Rebbetzin also had no doubt, as das hat die ausgelassene AGUNE untergeschickt dem Schläger, that it was the AGUNE, ausgelassen, how we translate that?
Immodest, perhaps?
Yeah, that will work. Just pulling up my dictionary here. Yeah, debauched. How's that? Had sent this violent person in secret to them. Edel hat merdisch geweint, nicht gekrächzt. Edel was no longer crying, not groaning, nor gelegen auf dem Bett. She was just lying on her bed und geguckt, wie Reb David spannt herum, hin und zurück, über den Cheder. And she saw how her husband, David, was walking back and forth in the room. Und sie hat nicht herabgenommen ihre Hand von der Josephels Keppel. And she didn't take her hand off the head of her little Joseph. Das Jüngel, ständig verstift und kriegerisch, her little boy, who was always stiff and rebellious, ist gesessen auf dem Rand von der Mames Geleger, was now sitting at the edge of his mother's bed, und sich gelost vor ihr glätten, and allowed himself to be caressed, wie wollt verstanden, as if he had understood, as von heint an und weiter, dafür verbeiten euch sein jüngeren Bruder Mottele. That from this point and onward, he should also verbeiten usually means exchange. I don't know what it means in this context. His younger brother,
replace.
Replace. Okay, he has to replace also his younger brother Motala. Reb David hat sich bloß einmal abgestellt bei Edels Bett. Reb David just once stopped at his wife Edel's bed und gefragt, sie will essen, and asked if she wants to eat. Aber wenn sie hat a Schachel getan mit dem Kopf auf Nein, but when she shook her head no, is nicht zugestanden. He didn't zugestanden. He didn't insist. Und wieder genommen herumspannen über den Cheder. And he continued walking back and forth. Wie wollte gewinnen, einer allein in a großen Posten besmedrisch, as if he were the only person in a big, empty study house. Der Schnee is gefallen, unaufhörlich. The snow is falling without let up. Und ungewehet auf die verevelte Mann und Weib, Täube bis eulemdicke Stillkeit und Mietkeit. And it howled on the man and wife verevelte. And suddenly my English is gone.
They're in mourning.
Yeah, in mourning. Yeah, there's a better word, but okay. It threw against them a deadly cemetery-like silence and exhaustion. Offensite, in the evening, wenn der gedichter Schnee hat aufgehört fallen, when the thick snow had finished falling, und die Fenster seien verzeugen geworden mit frostiger Bleikheit, and the windows were covered with a frosty blue appearance, waren Edel und ihr Jüngel von aufgetulliert in einem gelegen, versunken in a glieverdicken Schlaf. Then Edel and her youngster were together, pressed together, lying, sunken in a sleep. Now, glieverdik is let's see, in a solidified or sleep. When Reb David had noch als herumgespannt, but Reb David was still walking back and forth. Auf morgen früh, early in the morning, when the Rebbetzin hat geöffnet die Augen, when the Rebbetzin opened her eyes, hat Reb David schon wieder gespreist, hin und zurück. Reb David was still walking here and back and forth. Der wollte sich durch der Nacht gar nicht zugelegt, as if he hadn't laid down at all throughout the night. Eich Josephel hat sich aufgehoben an Ernster. Also, Yosef, the son, got up more solemnly, ruhiger, und mit einmal der Erwachsener, calmly and suddenly as if he were grown up. Es ist gewesen das erste Mal, als der Tate soll ihm nicht dürfen einreden davenen. For the first time, his father didn't have to ask him to say his prayers. Yosefel hat herausgenommen sein Sidral. Yosefel took out his prayer book und genommen mischen die Blättlich and started turning the pages. Heint darfst du nicht davenen. Man hat noch dein Bruderl nicht gehalten, nicht behalten. You don't have to daven today. We haven't yet buried your brother, hat der Tate ihm gesagt. His father told him. Und is zugegangen zum Weibsgeleger, and he approached his wife's bed. Reb David hat gerät still, kamat selbstständig. Reb David was speaking quietly, almost whispering. As in draußen is a größer Frost, that there is a great frost outside. Und es ist für ihr, Sekonis Nefoshes, gehen in Kinderspital. And for her, it would be a dangerous thing to go to the child hospital off Pohoyanka, on the street called Pohoyanka, wo sehr Motala liegt, where their son Motala was lying. Und danach begleiten dem Ohren nach von Zaretscher Besilem, and to walk afterwards to accompany it to the cemetery, the Zaretscher cemetery, is by ihm geblieben. He had decided, as wird gehen sagen die Kreuven, that he would go tell his relatives, sie sollen zunehmen das Kind, that they should gather the child, und bloß wird sein bei der Levaya, and he alone would go to the funeral. Ich will mitgehen, and Joseph will weinen. I want to go along. Joseph began to cry. Die Mama beruhigt him, soll nicht weinen. His mother calmed him down so that he shouldn't cry. Sie wird nicht losen wegnehmen Mottelen. Sie sollen später nicht wissen, wo sein Käferl befindet sich. She would not let them take Mottel away. So that no one would know later where his little grave would be. Und Saman sagt sie kurz, and she said, short and sweet, to her husband, Lass mich nicht allein. Don't leave me here alone. Reb David hat noch früher verstanden, als Edel wird nicht Maskim sein. Reb David had understood from before that Edel would not agree. Denkt sich nicht mehr. So he didn't he wasn't importuning her. He didn't bargain with her any further. Geht Joseflin essen von dem, was ist noch geblieben in Speisehalberl. He gave little Joseph something to eat from whatever was remaining in the pantry. Und besmeise redet zu ihm, and meanwhile he spoke to him, as hat for him a doppeltes Schliches, that he had a twofold errand for him. Kaidem kol, darf gehen in Stadt, in Tzedakah Gedola. First of all, he should go into the city to the great charity place, und dort erzählen, and he should tell them there, as beim Polotzker Dayan is gestorbener Jinkele, that a child has died that the Polotzker Dayan's child has died. Und as der Tate bet, misol die Levaya zu greten auf morgen, and that the father is requesting that they prepare the funeral for the next day. By morgen wird sein as a kalter Tag wie heint. If tomorrow will be as cold as today, bet der Tate ablegen die Levaya auf Nachmittag, then father is requesting that they postpone the funeral for another day. While the mama is krank, because the mother is ill, und verleiht nicht kein Kalt, and she cannot she cannot be in a cold place. She can't tolerate the cold. Auf zurückwegs soll Josef reingehen zum Kremer. And on his way back, Joey should go into the shop of Reb Shmuel off in Zaretscher Mark, of Reb Shmuel on the Zaretscher marketplace, und alles erzählen, and he should tell them everything. Soll sagen dem Kremer Reb Shmuel, he should tell the grocer Reb Shmuel, as der Tate bet lion noch a paar zlates, that his father is requesting that he lend him another few coins. Heint thus lets them all, but today would be the last time. Mehr wird nicht beten. He would never ask again. Joseph schuckelt zu mit dem Kopf. Joey nods in agreement und lässt sich von Taten herumbinden mit der Schalke die Euren. And he lets his father tie a shawl around his ears, soll sie nicht abfrieren, so as not to freeze them off. Die Mama liegt auf dem Bett in die Kleider. His mother was lying on the bed in her clothes, and it ausgetonnene, noch von Nächten, having never taken off her clothes still from yesterday on. Und ruft sich nicht up mit kein Wort, but she didn't respond with a single word. Erst, wenn Yosef will halt beim weggehen, only then, when Yosef was about to leave, ruft sie ihm zurück. She called him back. Bint über die Schalke, she again bound the shawl, as the Ecken sollen euch zudecken sein Hals, so that the ends of the shawl should also cover his throat, unteren Mantele, and go under his coat. Und sie ihm noch stiller wie der Tate, and she spoke to him even more quietly than his father. Soll sich nicht schämen, sagen dem Kremer und der Kremerke, that he shouldn't be embarrassed to tell the grocer and his wife, as sie sitzen unbräut in a nicht geheizter Dire, that his family is sitting without bread in an unheated apartment. Wenn das Jüngel geht weg, bleibt die Rebbitzin liegen auf dem Bett. When her son had left, the Rebbitzin remained lying on the bed, a schweigerdicke in silence. Und Reb David nimmt wieder herumspannen. And the Reb David again began to pace, kriebelt sich in seine Machshavas. And he was griebeln is to search, to probe, and he was probing in his thoughts. Okay, Moshe, your turn.
Hat verspielt, he is lost, the game or whatever. Verspielt by the Rabbonim, he lost out with the rabbis in Gas, with the street people, in sein eigener Stub, in his own home, und euch in Himmel, and even in heaven. Auf dem Olam HaEmes wird man ihm fragen, nach solche Kasches, was wird sie nicht kennen, verantworten. On the in the true world, in the world to come, they will ask him such questions that he will not be able to justify himself. Wie Rabbi Levi's Kashes von die Rishonim und Acharonim, like Rabbi Levi's questions from the different commentators, the first ones and those who came after. Auf dem Olam HaEmes wird man ihm fragen wegen seiner Kaponis. In the world to come, they will ask him about his intentions, und man wird noch dort geben, gerecht, die Chadim von seinem Weib, viele von Ort, der Moishke Cyrilnik, and they will there justify the suspicions of his wife and even of Moishke Cyrilnik. Dort wird man ihm vermonen, was will vergessen. There they will remind him about what he wants to forget and can fort nicht vergessen, and in any case cannot forget. As die Aguna hat gefunden kein in seinen Augen, that the Aguna found favor in his eyes, und hat gut bemerkt, als euch hat gefunden kein in ihre Augen, and he also well identified that he also had found favor in her eyes. Und gerade weil sie hat ihm gebeten, Charotte haben auf seiner Peter, and especially because she asked him to regret his giving the permission for her to remarry, hat sich eingeaktiont. He became more stubborn, weil hat gesehen, als sie hat größere Herz für seine Aktiones, because he saw that she had great respect for his stubbornness. Hat sie bet sich bei ihm soll Charotte haben, although she is asking him to have regrets. Is we can erhoben teines zum Judea Talumos, Allemaal sein Kind is nicht geholfen geworden. So how can he have complaints to the one who knows the depths? I'm not sure what Talumos, but I assume it's the depths. Is that right? Your
I
dad?
th Yeah, I think so. I'll look it up. But yeah, Yodea Ta'alumos, it's one of the thing I think it's in the Ataharesis or in the Akafis. There's Yodea Ta'alumos. I'm not sure. I'll look it up.
I think
Oh,
it refers to God,
Of
the one who
course.
knows all the
clearly.
secrets.
No, clearly it refers to God, but whether it refers to him as the one who knows one's hidden thoughts, the depths of one's thoughts. Now, I was wondering more about the literal translation rather than, God. Uh,
Okay, it comes from Psalms 44:22.
one of
Um,
God's attributes.
yeah, Kihu Yodea Ta'alumos Le. He knows the secrets of the heart.
Oh, okay, thanks. Right, it applies here. Why his child wasn't helped in the gut von seiner Rachmanis after Aguna out of the virtue of his having pity on the Aguna. Dort oben hat man gewusst, als hat umreine Machshavas. There above they knew that he had unclean thoughts. Edel bleibt stehen bei ihr Geleger. Edel remaining at her bedside. Ich bete dich, I beg of you, Edel. Wenn es wird reinkommen nach Balabos, when Beit Midrash or the Rashkena, when a householder or from the synagogue or a neighbor will come in, soll sich nicht heraushaben mit a Schlechtwort gegen die Rabbonim. You shouldn't come out with any bad word against the rabbis or the gegen Ebersten, chas v'sholem, and God forbid, not against God himself. Äußer mir is keiner nicht schuldig. Aside from me, no one is guilty. It is mine schuld, it's all my fault. In was bist du schuldig? What are you guilty about? Hebt sie im Kopf und Kissen. She lifts her head from the cushion. When Arthur antwortet nicht, and when
A Kishin is pillow. A Kishin pillow.
Pillow. When Arthur antwortet nicht, and when he doesn't answer, pillow or cushion, what's the difference?
In America, a cushion is something you sit on, and a cushion is
Oh,
something you put your head on.
okay. That's a fine distinction, thanks. When Arthur antwortet nicht, and when he doesn't answer, fällt ihr Kopf zurück herunter, her head falls down again. Keiner wird nicht reinkommen, nicht kein Ballerboss und nicht kein Schreiner. No one is going to come in, neither a householder nor a neighbor. Läuft nicht also herum, hin und zurück. Mir schwindeln vor die Augen. Mir schwindelt vor die Augen. Stop running back and forth. You are making me dizzy. Rab David tritt op von Weibsgeleger und dribbelt sich weiter. Rabbi David withdraws from his wife's bed and considers, investigates further. Und die Aguna hat gehabt reine Kavonas, and did the Aguna have pure intentions? Früher hat sie durch ihr Gewein und ihre Tachanunim ihm derbracht zu Amatze, wer soll great sein auf Nayazoras. At first, through her crying and her begging him, she brought him to a condition where he was ready, where he readied himself for new troubles. Abis his whole canon Chasnohopen mit Kalman Matus, as long as she would be able to get married to Kalman Matus. When später what sie and later she untergeschickt dem Markhändler, and later she sent the market dealer, soll fordern, Mavatal machen, die frierdige Chassana, that he should demand that they should cancel the previous marriage. Wenn die Aguna hat ihm angejuckt auf Polotsker Gas, when the Aguna chased him on the Polotsker Gas und geschworen and swore, as he hat dem Markhändler nicht geschickt, that she definitely did not send the market dealer, und hat nicht bedea mit ihm Chasna haben and had no idea to get married with him, hat ihr geglaubt, he believed her, aber heimfrei ist der grober Nefesh wiedergekommen, an ausgeputzter und gesagt, als das geht zu sein Kalle. But this morning, this uncouth person came again, all dressed up, and said that he is going to his bride. Always bleibt nicht, if you don't believe it, to, kommt mit, come with me. But ihr sehen, as ich gehe auf to Merrill, der Neiterin, that I'm going up to Merrill the seamstress. Hat gelacht, he laughed, und sie ist gewesen, kentig, as sagt Emmes, and it was obvious that he was telling the truth. Ich habe genug gesucht in Rishonim und Acharonim, bis ich habe gefunden, a hater. I sought enough in the different commentators until I found the mission, aber ich habe nicht genug Hocker Toresh gewähnt, wenn man ich bin Mater, but I have not sought enough, searched enough about whom I am giving the permission. Vergesst Rab David, als das Weib hat ihm gebeten, nicht herumlaufen, und trug sich über der Stub von Wand zu Wand. So Rabbi David forgets that his wife asked him not to run around, and he's still going around room from wall to wall, von Winkel zu Winkel, from corner to corner, sucht dann ein Reisgang von die Machshovas, was haben ihm verplontert, looking for a way out from the thoughts that have confused him. I think that's enough for me for now.
Okay.
Edel bleibt widerstehen bei ihr gelegen. Edel, and he remained standing once again at her bedside. Und zittert, flattert, wie wollt gesucht ihr Rettung. And he was trembling, fluttering, as if he were looking for something to rescue her. Unser Mottele ist geboren geworden vor der Zeit und mit a schwach Herzl. Our Mottele was born prematurely, and he had a weak heart. Es ist ein Nes mina Shamayim, as hat gelebt bis jetzt. It's a miracle from heaven that he has lived as long as up to this time. Avram Avinu is great gewesen makriv sein dem einzigen Sohn. Our forefather Abraham was prepared to sacrifice his only son. Chana hat makriv gewesen ihre 7 Sinn. Sie sollen sich nicht bucken zu der Avoide Zora. and Hannah's 7 sons, she sacrificed her 7 sons so that they shouldn't bow down to idol worship. Und wir können nicht Scholem machen, was der Eibester hat bei uns zugenommen, ein Kind. And we can't accept that the Eibester, that God has taken away our one of our sons. Was sagst du? What are you saying? Guckt him Edel on verwirrte. She looked at him in a troubled way. Wie die Kält in Stub und der Weitug wollten ausgefrorene Mark in ihr Moer, as if the cold in the house and the pain had frozen the marrow in her brain. Zu Hannen mit die 7 Kinder gleich zu mich? Are you comparing me to Hannah and her 7 children? Hannen mit ihre 7 Kinder, der Monnen jeden bis heint zu Tag. Hannah and her 7 children are remembered, are mentioned by Jews right up till today. Und wer wird der Monnen mein Eifela? And who's going to remember my little one? Nicht men halt mich verasatze dekes, nicht ich bin es und nicht ich will es sein. I am not considered as such a righteous woman. I'm not that, and I don't want to be that. Doch es unsere Schuld, steht Reb David über ihr mit a gebeugenem Kopf. So it's our fault, nevertheless. And Reb David was standing over her with a bowed head, und a runtergeloste hand, and with his hands, his arms, I think at his side. Wenn wir beide wollten genommen auf sich dem Gsardin und kein Teines nicht gehabt zum Rebäunische Leulam, wollt euch unser Mottele weggehen gewinn a Kiddush Hashem. If we would have accepted the decree without complaint to the Ribono Shel Olam, to the Master of the Universe, our Motelo would also have gone, have died al Kiddush Hashem in the sanctification of God's name. Wie bei Hannah's Kinder, as happened to Hannah's children. Jeden wollten gesehen unser Hachnoah. People would have seen our humility und von uns sich abgelernt, wie man darf haben Emunah in Ribono Shel Olam. And they would have learned from us how people should have belief in the Ribono Shel Olam, in the Master of the Universe. Keiner wird sich von uns nicht lernen, wie zu führen. No one is going to learn from us how to behave. schmeichelt sie bitter treuerig. She smiled bitterly and sadly. Nicht du bist Avrom Avinu und nicht ich bin Chana. You are not Avrom Avinu and I am not Chana. Du bist afile nicht mehr der Polotske Dayan. You are even no longer the Polotske judge. Und ich bin nicht mehr die Polotske Dayente. And I am no longer the Polotske Dayan's wife. Wir liegen in Cherem. We are lying in, we are in excommunicated. Sie verschließt die Augen und murmelt wie von Cholem. And she closed her eyes and she mumbled as if in a dream. Hannah had gekent ihre Kinder makriv sein. Hannah could have sacrificed her children. Aber Leben ohne sie hat sie nicht gekent. But she was unable to live without them. Sie ist Ruf gekrochen auf ein Dach und sich herabgeworfen. She climbed up onto a roof and she threw herself down. Und ich muss weiterleben. And I have to carry on living. Du hast doch noch ein Kind, der hört sie über sich, ihr Manns Call, und fühlt sein Atem auf ihr Ponym. But you have another child. She heard her husband say, leaning over her, and she felt his breath on her face. Und mein Mann allein is noch euch ein Kind, and my husband himself is also still a child. Is geblieben ein Kind, was treut etlichen. He has remained a child who has faith in everybody. Glitt sie ihm mit vermachte Augen über den Stern, and she caressed him with her eyes closed over his forehead. Über die Backen und über sein weich-länglich Bärdel, and over his cheeks and over his soft, longish beard. Sie ist sicher, hat stark Charotte, was hat eingestellt für zerlosene Freude. And she is sure that he has strong regrets that he risked himself for a loose woman. Du verstehst, Edel, bet sich bei ihr mit a gebrochen Kohl. Do you understand, Edel? He begged of her with a broken voice. When a Yid light Yisurim, when a Jew is suffering, und is nicht makabel ba'ava, and he doesn't accept it with love completely, seien die Yisurim seine noch größer. His suffering is even worse. Aber wenn wir beide nehmen für lieb unsere Leiden, but if we accept our suffering together, wenn wir verstehen, Gott, als das ist für unsere sind, wollten wir so stark nicht gelitten. And if we understood that this was our suffering was because of our sins, we would not have suffered so terribly. Ich hab nicht gesündigt, nicht gegen Gott und nicht gegen Menschen. I haven't sinned, not against God and not against people. Git die Rebbetzin beise a sicher und öffnet die Augen. The Rebbetzin hissed out the words and opened her eyes. Was redst du etwas heint geseder, als du bist sündig und schuldig? What are you talking about today now that you are always sinful and guilty? Guckt sie ihm on mit Schreck, and she looked at him in fear. Sie, is nicht great sich moide sein, that he wasn't prepared to moide sein,
Admit.
admit, as ihr geschad wegen ihm und der Agune is nicht kein Umsister, that he wouldn't that her suspicion that he her suspicion about the Aguna and her husband was not for nothing. Ich hab euch nicht gesündigt. I also haven't sinned. Schneidet op und geht weg von ihr Geleger Vertrachter. I also haven't sinned. He interrupted her and he went away from her bed pensively. Gott is mein Eides, als wenn ich ob der Aguna rausgegeben dem Heter, hab ich gehabt die reinste Kavones. As God is my witness, when I gave the Aguna the permission, I had only the purest of intentions. Bleibt stehen beim Sforim Schenkel, and he remained standing at the bookcase. Wie wollt die Sforim herausgestellt für seine Eides, as if he were displaying the books as his witness. Und das melamed schus sein auf sich allein bringt ihm zum Gedank, als euch die Aguna hat ihm nicht abgenarrt. And that the books were pleading on to defend him.
No, Melamed Zchusain is to treat someone with the presumption of innocence.
Okay.
So his presumption of innocence for himself, of sich allein.
Okay. So his presumption of innocence.
Ask a question. Melamed Zechus, what is the derivation there?
Oh, it's right from Pirkei Avos. It's like Dan's Bechaf HaSchus, that sort of thing. Melamed Schus, to teach righteousness. So Melamed Zchusain means to treat someone as if innocent.
Oh, to justify someone then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just trying to find. I don't have that one in my dictionary, but that's what it means.
Okay, so that brings him to the thought that the Aguna herself, that she didn't deceive him. Sie hat zweimal sich gebeten bei ihm, soll Charotte haben auf sein Heter. Twice she asked him to
Renounce?
to have set aside his permission, und Sholem machen mit die Rabbonim, and to make peace with the rabbis. Sis mistoma euch emes was sie sagt, and it's perhaps true what she said, as sie hat nicht Bedeia zu verbinden mit dem Markhändler. And it's probably true that she doesn't intend to marry the market dealer, Moritz Zirulnik. Wenn sie wollt Bederge hat, mit ihm sich zu verbinden, if she had intended to join up with him, to marry him, wollt sie sich doch nicht gemutschet a rauszukriegen nach Heter. She wouldn't have worked so or toiled to get permission, gedei chasana haben mit Kalman Maitis, in order to marry Kalman Maitis. Okay.
Yeah, I just looked up Melamed Schus. It appears in the Mishnah in several places, and it's for example, in Sanhedrin, and it means to give evidence or on behalf of innocence. It's to declare someone innocent or to teach that someone is innocent.
Okay.
I will continue then. Aber was wird sein weiter? But what's going to happen next? Der Markhandler, this market peddler, this is Cyrulnik, versus gewinnt zweimal, who had come twice. Wird sicher kommen a drittmal. He'll certainly come a third time. Bis jetzt hat sich begnügend mit Straschen. Up to this point, it had been sufficient for him just to threaten. And an anderes Mal kann Tage schlagen euch. And the next time it might actually come to blows. As edel wird es der sein, we're on the next page. As edel wird es der sein, kann sie noch sterben von Schreck. And if Edel would see that, she might even die from fear. Reb David hat nicht mehr bei wemmen zu borgen. Reb David no longer has anyone he can borrow money from. When I feel nicht bei wemmen zu betten an Dove. He even doesn't have anyone who he can ask for a handout. Men is af im moitzi a shemra. People had brought forth against him it's like a rachilus, you're going to translate a shemra, gossip, slander. That's it, slander. As hat gehat Satan, oder hat Satan mit der Agune, that either he had dealings with, or he is having dealings with the Agune. Und viele the Balabatim was haben früher gehalten mit him, and even the householders who earlier had taken his side, nehmen sich jetzt von ihm abkehren. They've begun to distance themselves from him. Wer redt noch, wenn der neue Bilbel wird gehen zu seine Damsonim? Not even to mention what will happen if this new slander will reach the ears of his blood enemies, Samoil Lapidus, to the circumciser Lapidus, and them Shamas von Stadtschul, and the beadle, the Shamas of the main synagogue. That wegen dem nemen reden ganz Vilna. About that, all of Vilna will start to speak. Wie soll wird es euch halten? How will he be able to bear it? And wie soll wird es Edel euch halten? And how will Edel be able to bear it? Retze sich Reb David, und die ganze angesammelte Bitternis geht sich von ihm aris mit der Gejammer. Reb David speaks to himself, and the entire collected bitterness rips itself out of him with a wail. Anenu ha'oina be'esara, anenu, anenu rachem v'chanon, anenu. Answer us, the one who answers at the time of difficulty. Answer us, merciful and rachem v'chanon, and gracious. Answer us. David, Herr ruft weinen. David, stop crying, schreit die Rebbetzin, durchgenommen von ihrem Manns Verzweiflung. Shouts out the Rebbetzin. Durchgenommen. Makes sense in Yiddish. How does it go in English, though? Taken through. Suffused with. How's that? Her husband's doubting. Du wirst weinen, weil ich. If you're going to be crying, then so am I. So am I. Reb David tut sich a Wurf zum Weib. Reb David casts himself towards his wife, was hat übergerissen in der Mitten, wie getroffen von a Herzschlag, as if it had his wife, who had interrupted him in the middle and had caught him as if from protecting him or preventing a heart attack. Ihr Ponem is ausgekrimmt. Her face was in a grimace. Ihr Mäuel is offen, her mouth open. Und ihre Augen voll mit Schreck, her eyes full of fear. Kass und Verwunderung. Fear, anger, and wonder. Seinen zugeschmied zu der Tier. Her eyes were fastened to the door, looking at the door. Reb David geht sich a drei Eis. Reb David twirled about und zet in der offene Tier, and he catch the sight at the open door, dem Rav von Shlomo Kissensheif, Reb Levi Hurwitz. And he catches sight at the door, the rabbi of Shlomo Kissin's courtyard, Reb Levi Horvitz. Next chapter, die Machlekes wird noch größer. The dispute becomes even larger, even greater. In säubelnem Streimel, in a sable hat, and in langen Mantel, and wearing a long coat, untergenäht mit Pelz, with a fur, what's it called?
Lining.
Lining, that's the word, a fur lining. Und mit a breiten futterndem Kragen, and with a broad collar of, again, it's pelts, futter. Yeah, I'm trying to look this one quickly. Fur, yeah, with a and a collar, a fur collar. But Reb Levi ausgesehen wie a Platz. Reb Levi looked like a nobleman. Nor sein Ponem is gewähnt verlaufen von wache Nacht. But his face was showing the signs of nights awake. Und die Bord zerscheubert. His beard was tangled, verschwitzt, and sweaty. Is a reinen Stub mit der hastigen Span. He came striding quickly into the room. Und sein Blick hat sich abgestellt auf der Rebbetzin. And his eyes fell upon the Rebbetzin. Zu mein Gemüt sollt ihr kommen, hat edle Geschrei getan. Und mit beider Hand sich verstellt das Ponem. You've got to come when I'm looking like this, Edel shouted out, and with both her hands she hid her face. Ich bin schon gekommen zu eurer Gemüt. Yes, I've come now. How are you going to understand this Gemüt? Frame of mind or disposition, yeah.
Or a mood.
Mood, yeah. I have come to your mood. A vibe und a Tochter in Mishigoyim Heis is wenig. Is it enough that I have a wife and a daughter in the crazy house, hat Reb Levi sich herabgesetzt beim nackten Tisch. Reb Levi sat down at the empty table. And a cook getan auf Reb David Zelver, and he looked at Reb David Zelver. Sich verheert wemmens Zores seine größere. To hear whose troubles were in fact the greater. Mein Kind ist mir gestorben, der hört Reb Levi, von hinter sein Rücken, der Rebbitzins Gewein. But my child has died. Reb Levi hears behind his back the crying of the Rebbitzin. Und das Gewein stecht sich rein in sein Leib wie Nodlin. And this crying pierces his body as if with needles. Ich weiß, ich hab die ganze Zeit gewusst, als was kommt vor. Yes, I know. The whole time I have known what's been happening. Als man will wissen, weiß man. If you want to know, you do know. Spart Reb Levi on, sein schweißigen Stern auf der Dlonie. Reb Levi puts his sweaty forehead, rests it on his palms. Wie wollt in Heus von Polotsker Dayan sich kommen abruhen, as if he had come to rest in the house of the Polotsker Dayan. Von seiner schlaflose Nacht in der Heim, to rest because of his sleepless nights back at his house. Und als man hat mein Mann herausgetrieben von das Medrash und unser Jüngel von Cheder hat reich gewusst. Did you also know that they've driven my husband out of the study hall and our son out of the Cheder? Gewusst und geschwiegen, you knew this and you were silent? Ja, ich hab gewusst. Yes, I knew that. Red Reb Levi zu Reb David. Reb Levi speaks to Reb David. Was steht ihm entgegen? Unbeweglich, mit verschlossenen Lippen. Reb David, who is standing in front of him, unmoving and with closed lips. Und als unsere Sonnen sagen, als die Agune ist mein Manns Ljubovnitze? And did you know that our enemies are saying that the Agune is my husband's lover? Hat reich gewusst und geschwiegen? You knew that also? And you were silent? Schreit der Rebbitzin mit Numenakailis. The Rebbitzin cries out with weird noises, with Numenakailis, crazy, in a crazy tone. For them, trogich nit kenach. Now that's not my fault. And for Reb Levi wieder, then Polotsker Dayan. Again, Reb Levi is answering not the wife, but the Polotsker Dayan. Reb David wollte es ihm gefragt, as if Reb David had asked him, mit sein Weibscall, with the voice of his wife. Der Ravad Harabonis hat die Melamdim nit geheißen heraustreiben eier Jüngel von Cheder. The rabbinic court did not require that the teachers drive your son out of school. Und wir haben euch nicht geheißen dem Gabe, unser Kleus, euch mebase sein. And also, we never asked the Gabbai of the Zoretcher prayer house to embarrass you. Wir haben auf euch kein Cherem mit euch gerufen. We never established an ostracism against you. Wir haben nur euch geklebt modoas. All we did was to put up signs as wir seinen nit maskim mit eure Psakdin, that we disagree with your rabbinic judgment. Reb David, der Chil Hashem in Stott is Moradek. Reb David, this desecration of God's name here in the city, it's terrible. Reb David, seid moide, as ihr hat gemacht Toas. Reb David, just admit that you made a mistake. Und ratevit dem kavod haTorah, and rescue the honor of the Torah, and them kavod from the Anshe Torah, and the honor of the folk of the Torah. Rebbetzin geht sich Reb Levi a drei Eis, zu der Frau auf dem Bett, and Rebbetzin, at this point, Reb Levi turns about towards the woman lying in the bed. Wie wollt gewusst, als beim Dayan allein, that they're going to peilen, as if he knew that he would not accomplish anything from the Dayan himself. Rebbetzin, ret ein, euer Mann. Rebbetzin, convince your husband, bet him, beg of him, weint for him, cry to him, as Almighty design in dem Toas, that he should admit his mistake. Ob nicht in Herzen is chutz for Menschen, if not in his own heart, at least in front of people. Die Welt soll nicht sagen, als die Rabbanim allein treten die Torah mit die Fies. So that the world should not say that the rabbis themselves are trampling on the Torah. Jetzt seid ihr gekommen reden wegen Shalom? So now you're coming to talk about peace? Zu spät seid ihr gekommen. You've come too late. Wargt sich die Rebbetzin mit ihrer Tränen. The Rebbetzin chokes on her tears. Die Tränen kommen in ihre Augen und werden verwandelt in Funken. These tears are coming out of her eyes and they become turned into sparks. Ihre Ponem zint sich on und Kass, and her face becomes inflamed with anger. Als ihr hat gekannt sehen, wie mein Kind geht euch, when you were able to see that my child was dying, und ihr seid uns nicht gekommen helfen, but you never came to help us. Seid ihr a Goslin, that makes you a robber, an emissar Goslin, a real robber. Das hat ihr doch ungefährt, die ganze Hetze gegen mein Mann, because it was you who brought about this entire hetze, this entire incitement against my husband. Moshe.
Ich hab gegen euer Mann nicht gefühlt kein Hetze. I did not agitate against your husband. Der nennt sich Rabbi Levi zu der Rebbetzins Geleger. Rabbi Levi approaches the Rebbetzins bed und redet zu ihr about hearts and speaks bravely, heartily to her, mit vaterlicher Günstigkeit, with fatherly favor. Ich hab Edes, I have witnesses, und der Borei Olam is mein Edes, and the creator of the world is my witness. Als ich hab dem Eberschamas von Stadtschul geheißen schweigen, that I actually told the superior shamas of the city shul to be quiet. Nor hat nicht geschwiegen, but he didn't keep quiet. Und der Moel Peters hat nicht geschwiegen, and the person who does the circumcisions, Lapidus, also wasn't quiet. Und die Stadt hat nicht geschwiegen, and the town itself did not keep quiet. Ob ich kein anderer Breder nicht gehabt, wie rufen meier Mann auf einer Sifa und Vad Harabonim. So I didn't have any option, any choice, other than calling your husband to a gathering of the rabbinical committee. Wir haben sich bei ihm gebeten. We actually requested, asked of him, and wir haben ihm gewarnt, we warned him, als seine Sonim und der Erev Rav, that his enemies and the mob, der Hamon, the mass of people, that gehen a Sach weiter wie mir, will take things a lot further than us, die Rabbonim, than us, the rabbis. Aber euer Mann hat unsere Warnungen und auch viele unserer Tachanunim nicht gewollt haben. But your husband didn't want to hear our warnings and our begging him. haben wir kein anderer Ausweg nicht gehabt, wie opstellen im Zollstirus. So we didn't have any other way out other than stopping his salary, stopping to pay his salary. Und als mein Mann is a wilder action, and because my husband is a wild, obstinate person, davon leiden meine Kinder. Do my children have to suffer? Aber ihr seid noch ärger, but you are even worse. Ihr seid a cousin, you are a violent person. Ihr hat euch euer Weib und Tochter vermutet. You have also tormented your wife and daughter, und nachdem sie abgeschickt in Meshugoim was, and after you tormented them, you sent them to the asylum. Soll sein, als ich bin schuldig, let it, I allow that I am guilty in der Krankheit von mein Weib, in the illness of my wife and Tochter and daughter. Nor in eure Zorres bin ich nicht schuldig, but in your problems I am not guilty. Tret Rab Levi zu noch nenter zu der Rebbitzins Geleger. Rabbi Levi approaches even closer to the Rebbitzins bed und redt zu ihr noch weicher and speaks even more quietly to her. Par mir is schon nicht talking Tkuma. There is no hope of arising again, hope of recovery. Ich bin a Yid Azoken. I am an old Jew. Und will noch einmal nicht chasna haben, and I will not marry again. Wie ich habe nicht chasna gehabt 20 Jahre, as I haven't married for 20 years now. Wenn ich sitze on a vibe, since I'm sitting without a wife, und noch ab 20-jährige Tochter will ich erwarten nicht, der Leben auszuhören. And another 20-year-old daughter, I will definitely not survive to rear up. Aber ihr beide seid noch junge Menschen, but the two of you are still young people, und der Eberster wird euch helfen, and God above will help you. Das Leben ist noch gegen euch. Life is still open for you, awaiting you, nicht hinter euch, not behind you. When you've got a Engel and you've got a little boy, a bar mitzvah Engel, young lad who's bar mitzvah, when you're doch him schicken in a yeshiva lernen, and you will probably send him to a yeshiva to study further. Wilt ihr als euer Sohn soll sich davon schämen, was sein Tate? Do you want that your son should be ashamed because his father, der Polotsker Tayan, the Polotsker judge, what matter gemacht an Eshet Ish, allowed a married woman to remarry? Ob euer Mann wird Meuter sein in dem Tors, if your husband will admit to his mistake, will Miriam opzollen die Scheres für alle Sachen bis Aprute. We will
Alle Wochen.
alle Wochen bis Aprute. We will pay him up the salary for all the weeks to the last penny. Und will sich einstellen für ihm gegen jeden, and we will set ourselves up against anyone was wird sagen auf ihm a schlecht Wort, who will say bad things about him. Ob aber euer Mann wird euch auf weiter sein eingespart, but if your husband will still remain stubborn further on, sollt ihr wissen, als die Redives gegen ihn will nicht aufhören. He should know that the persecutions against him will not stop. Nicht mehr die Rabbonim wollen es tun. We, the rabbis, will not do it, nor der Haman, but the masses, der Ever Rav, the mob. When wir wollen Gott nicht kunnen helpen and we will not be able to help. Waarom moet meer wel voor hem zich einstellen? Because if we will support him, wird man sagen, als alle Rabbonim seinen Punkt wie der Polotsker Dayan, that all the rabbis are exactly like the Polotsker judge, when lachen von der Torah and mock the Torah. They seinen matir an eshet ish. They are permitting a married woman to remarry. Hocher Rachmanis, have pity, Rebbetzin, Afayr Ingel, have pity on your son, auf sich gufa, on yourself, when euch auf Eiermann and also on your husband, also auf sich allein kein Rachmanis nicht, who doesn't have mercy on, doesn't pity himself. Was soll ich aber tun, als folgt mich nicht? What should I do when he doesn't listen to me? Weint die Rebbetzin, the Rebbetzin cries. Sie ist nicht verzweifelt und verbittert. Ist Sorg für der Mischpoche starker wie ihr Kass auf Rebleben. However much she is despairing and embittered, her concern for her husband, for the family, is stronger than her cause of Rab Levin, than her anger with Rab Levi. When she felt, as weist ihr Arois Emerson Mitgefühl, and she feels that he is really showing her true empathy. Chotzi is im Bafaln mit Zilzulim, although she had abused him. Der Rav hat die Inyanim von Chlitza, when Agunes macht Litzonas, the rabbi of the matters of Chalitza, divorce, and Agunes is mocking us. Darf nicht reden wegen Rachmanis. He mustn't speak about pity, weil weiß nicht, was Rachmanis is, because he doesn't know what pity is or mercy is. Gedruckt over da lach, trucken und kurz. Reb Levi gives a short, dry laugh. Wie das wollte sich von ihm herausgerissen, as if it had kind of torn itself out of him. Ich bin mehr Baal Rachamim von euch. I am more master of mercy than you. Dreht sich Rab Levi aus zu ihm mit zerflackert Ponim. Rab Levi turns to him with a face that is burning. Nor ich kann nicht sein, und will nicht sein, mehr Baal Rachamim, wie es ist die Teure. But I cannot and I will not be more merciful than the Torah.